Week 8 Day 1. Emaciated, abnormally thin, wasted away. Since the emaciated residents of the Warsaw Ghetto managed to win several skirmishes from the Nazis. Since emaciated, adjective, since very thin and weak, usually because of illness or extreme hunger. There were pictures of emaciated children on the cover of the magazine. Emaciation, noun, surged to rush suddenly. Since Chicago put its heaviest players up front, but they were helpless, as the Giants' line surged toward them. Since surge, noun, 1, a sudden and great increase. An unexpected surge in electrical power caused the computer to crash. There has been a surge in house prices recently. See also resurgence. 2. A sudden and great movement forward. At the end of the game, there was a surge of fans onto the field. A tidal surge, sudden and great rise in the level of the sea, caused severe flooding in coastal areas. 3. A sudden increase of an emotion. She was overwhelmed by a surge of remorse. Surge, verb 1, to increase suddenly and greatly. The company's profits have surged. 2. To move quickly and powerfully. An angry crowd surged through the gates of the president's palace. A few meters before the end of the race, Jenkins surged into the lead. 3. Of an emotion, to develop strongly and quickly. She felt a wave of resentment surging up inside her. Tranquil, quiet. Since a firecracker terminated the tranquil climate of the neighborhood. Since tranquil, adjective, calm and peaceful and without noise, violence, anxiety, etc. She stared at the tranquil surface of the water. The hotel is in a tranquil rural setting. A spasm of pain crossed his normally tranquil features. Tranquilly, adverb, tranquility, us, usually tranquility, noun, living in peace and tranquility. I love the tranquility of the countryside. Tranquilize, us, usually tranquilize, UK, usually tranquilize, verb, to make an animal or person become unconscious or calm, especially with a drug, a tranquilizing drug. The dogs were tranquilized with a dart gun and taken to a shelter. Tranquilizer, us, usually tranquilizer, UK, usually tranquilizer, noun, a drug used to make a person or animal calmer. She was on tranquilizers for a long time after her son died. Sanctuary, shelter. Since, when Richard III violated the sanctuary of the church to seize the princes, he exceeded his jurisdiction. Since sanctuary, noun, 1, see, usually singular, u, protection or a safe place, especially for someone or something being chased or hunted. Illegal immigrants found took sanctuary in a local church. The chapel became a sanctuary for the refugees. Figurative, if I want some peace and quiet, I take sanctuary in my study. 2. See, a place where birds or animals can live and be protected, especially from hunters or dangerous conditions, a wildlife bird sanctuary. 3. See, the most holy part of a religious building. Ascend, to rise. Since inexorably the determined climber began to ascend the Himalayan peak. Since ascend, height, verb, formal, to move up or climb something. They slowly ascended the steep path up the mountain. The divers have begun to ascend to the surface of the water. There's a long flight of steps ascending leading up to the cathedral doors. Ascent, noun, see, usually singular. She made her first successful ascent climb of Everest last year. We struggled up the slippery ascent slope. Since ascend, importance, verb I, formal, to rise to a position of higher rank. He eventually ascended to the position of chief executive. Ascent, noun, as formal, when someone starts to become successful. His ascent to power was rapid and unexpected. Since ascend, the throne, formal, to become queen or king. Sour grapes, to disparage something that you cannot have. From Aesop's fable about the fox, who called the grapes sour because he could not reach them. Since Marcia said that she didn't want to be on the principal's honor roll anyway, but we knew that it was just sour grapes on her part. Enter Dr. Thomas A. Dooley. In 1956, Look magazine named Thomas Dooley as one of the year's 10 most outstanding men. Just under 30 years of age at the time, Dr. Dooley had already distinguished himself by caring for 500,000 sick and emaciated Vietnamese refugees. When fighting broke out in the divided country of Vietnam, the northern communist Viet Minh forces surged southward, scattering thousands of refugees before them. At the time, Dr. Dooley was a lieutenant, assigned to a tranquil naval hospital in Yokosuka, Japan. Forthwith he volunteered for duty on a Navy ship that had been chosen to transport the refugees to sanctuary in Saigon. The curtain was beginning to ascend on Dooley's real career. Week 8 Day 2. malnutrition, faulty or inadequate diet. Sense the emaciated prisoners were obviously suffering from advanced malnutrition. Sense malnutrition, noun, physical weakness and bad health caused by a lack of food, or by a lack of the types of food necessary for good health. Many of the refugees are suffering from severe malnutrition. Afflict, trouble greatly, to distress. Sense citizens of several Kentucky mountain communities are afflicted by the worst poverty in the nation. Sense afflict, verb t. If a problem or illness afflicts a person or thing, they suffer from it. It is an illness, which afflicts women more than men. A country afflicted by civil war. Affliction, noun, c or u, formal, something that makes you suffer. Malnutrition is one of the common afflictions of the poor. Besiege, to surround, hem and. Sense by running up a white flag, the besieged troops indicated their desire to withdraw from the fray. Sense besiege, verb t, often passive, one, to surround a place, especially with an army, to prevent people or supplies getting in or out. The town had been besieged for 2 months but still resisted the aggressors. 2. When someone is besieged, a lot of people surround them. When the pop star tried to leave her hotel, she was besieged by waiting journalists and fans. 3. To make many requests or complaints about something. After showing the controversial film, the television company was besieged with phone calls and letters from angry viewers. Privation, lack of necessity. Sense Albert Schweitzer endured considerable privation as a jungle doctor. Sense privation, noun, c or u, formal, a lack of the basic things that are necessary for an acceptable standard of living. Economic privation is pushing the poor towards crime. Several villages suffered serious privations during their long isolation during the war. Sinister, evil, ominous. Sense the stool pigeon, the detective's confidant, told him about the sinister plot. Sense sinister, adjective, making you feel that something bad or evil might happen. The ruined house had a sinister appearance. A sinister-looking man sat in the corner of the room. To swap horses midstream to vote against a candidate running for re-election, change one's mind. Sense the mayor pointing out how foolish it would be to swap horses midstream. Dooley's mission. Aboard the refugee ship, Dooley's destiny took shape. He became painfully cognizant of the malnutrition, disease, ignorance, and fear that afflicted the natives. In addition, he discerned how active the communists had been in spreading their anti-American propaganda. Tom Dooley pitched in to build shelters in Haiphong, and to comfort the poor Vietnamese there, before the besieged city fell to the powerful Viet Minh forces. He was seemingly unconcerned by the many privations he had to endure. For his services, Dooley received the U.S. Navy's Legion of Merit. He told the story of this exciting experience in Deliver Us from Evil, a bestseller that alerted America to the plight of the Vietnamese as well as to the sinister menace of communism. Week 8, Day 3. Ubiquitous, being everywhere at the same time. Sense sprinting all over the court, the ubiquitous referee called one foul after another. Sense ubiquitous, adjective, formal or humorous, seeming to be in all places. Leather is very much in fashion this season, as of course is the ubiquitous denim. The Swedes are not alone in finding their language under pressure from the ubiquitous spread of English. The radio, that most ubiquitous of consumer electronic appliances, is about to enter a new age. Ubiquitously, adverb, ubiquity, noun, formal, the ubiquity of fast food outlets, the fact that they are found everywhere, remote, distant, hidden away. Sense Ben's reprehensible table manners led his fraternity brothers to seat him in a remote corner of the dining room. Sense remote, hide, phonetics, adjective, one far away in distance, time or relation. Remote galaxies, it happened in the remote past, so no one worries about it anymore. They take little interest in a conflict far from their homes and remote from their everyday problems. 2. Describes an area, house or village that is a long way from any towns or cities, a remote mountain village. 3. Slight, a remote possibility, the chances of a visit by Martians to the Earth are remote. 4. Not very friendly or showing little interest in other people, her manner was remote and cool. Remotely, adverb, 1. In a remote place, a remotely situated farmhouse. 2. In a remote or very slight way, I'm afraid we're not remotely interested in your proposal. Remoteness, noun, thwart, to hinder, defeat. Sense in an attempt to thwart the voracious ants, he surrounded his house with a moat of burning oil. Sense thwart, verb t, to stop something from happening or someone from doing something. My holiday plans have been thwarted by the strike. Harbinger forerunner, advance notice. Since the excellent soup was a harbinger of the delicious meal to follow. Since harbinger, noun. See literary, someone or a thing that shows that something is going to happen soon, especially something bad. A harbinger of doom. Malignant, likely to cause death. Since the surgeon finally located the malignant tumor that had afflicted his patient for many months. Since malignant, adjective 1, describes a disease or a disease growth that is likely to get uncontrollably worse and lead to death. The process by which malignant cancer cells multiply isn't fully understood. Is the tumor malignant or benign? Compare benign to formal evil, having a strong desire to do harm. He developed a malignant hatred for the land of his birth. Malignantly, adverb. Malignancy, noun. See or you. Specialize. The malignancy of these tumors makes them difficult to treat. Tests revealed a malignancy that had to be removed. To cool one's heels, to be kept waiting. Null. Since the shrewd mayor made the angry delegates cool their heels in his outer office. Stymied by personal sickness. After an extensive lecture tour in 1956, Dr. Dooley returned to Laos to set up a mobile medical unit. Because the Geneva Agreement barred the entrance of military personnel to the country, he resigned from the Navy and went to work as a civilian. That story is told in The Edge of Tomorrow. Next year, despite a growing illness, the ubiquitous Dooley turned up in the remote village of Mong Sing, attempting to thwart his traditional enemies: disease, dirt, ignorance, starvation, and hoping to quell the spread of communism. But his trained medical eye soon told him that the pain in his chest and back was a harbinger of a malignant cancer. Week 8, Day 4. Excruciating, agonizing, torturing sense with excruciating slowness. The minute hand inched its way around the clock. Sense excruciating, adjective 1, extremely painful, and excruciating pain in the lower back. 2, extremely boring or embarrassing, excruciating boredom. His confession, when it came, was excruciating. Excruciatingly, adverb. Excruciatingly painful, uncomfortable, excruciatingly embarrassing, boring, funny, respite, an interval of relief, delay. Since the voluble insurance salesman gave my father no respite. Since respite, noun. Formal 1, you a pause or rest from something difficult or unpleasant. We worked for hours without respite. 2, a useful delay before something unpleasant happens. Their teacher was away, so they had a day's respite before their essays were due. Reverberating, re-echoing, resounding. Since the rescue team heard the miner's voice reverberating through the cave. Since reverberate, verb 1, literary. If a loud deep sound reverberates, it continues to be heard around an area, so that the area seems to shake. The narrow street reverberated with to the sound of the workmen's drills. 2, plus adverb or preposition. If an event or idea reverberates somewhere, it has an effect on everyone or everything in a place or group. News of the disaster reverberated around the organization. The surge in share prices reverberated across their globe. Reverberation, noun. See usually plural. You literary. She felt the reverberation in her chest and cursed the drilling outside. This move is likely to have reverberations effects throughout the health service. No, fretful, worrisome, irritable. Sense around income tax time. Fretful faces are ubiquitous. Sense fret, worry, verb I, to be anxious or worried. Don't fret, I'm sure he's okay. She spent the day fretting over what she'd said to Nikki. Fretful, adjective. By midnight the children were tired and fretful, complaining a lot because they were unhappy. Fretfully, adverb. Succumb, to give way, yield. Sense besieged by debts, the corporation finally had to succumb to bankruptcy. Succumb, verb I, formal 1, to lose the determination to oppose something, to accept defeat. The town finally succumbed last week, after being pounded with heavy artillery for more than 2 months. I'm afraid I succumbed to temptation, and had a piece of cheesecake. I felt sure it would only be a matter of time before he succumbed to my charms. 2, to die or suffer badly from an illness. Thousands of cows have succumbed to the disease in the past few months. A red herring, something that diverts attention from the main issue. A red herring drawn across a fox's path destroys the scent. Since we felt that the introduction of his war record was a red herring, to keep us from inquiring into his graft. Promises to keep. From August 1959 until his death in January 1961, Dooley suffered almost continuous, excruciating pain. His normal weight of 180 was cut in half, and even the pain-killing drugs could no longer bring relief. Knowing that he did not have long to live, Dr. Dooley worked without respite on behalf of Medico, the organization he had founded to bring medical aid and hope to the world's sick and needy. The lines of Robert Frost kept reverberating in his mind during those fretful days: "The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep." When he finally succumbed, millions throughout the world were stunned and grief-stricken by the tragedy. Week 8, Day 5. Aftermath of an earthquake. The Egyptian earthquake in October 1992 killed 600 residents of Cairo and hospitalized thousands of others, many of whom were expected to succumb as a result of their injuries. Especially hard-hit were the people who inhabited the city's slums, who had to seek sanctuary in those government buildings, schools, and factories that remained standing. Muslim fundamentalists were active in providing relief to the survivors in the form of food, water, blankets, and tents to house the more than 300 families made homeless by the disaster. In the midst of a rubble-strewn street, a large tent was set up, bearing the banner, "Islam is the solution." Believers took the opportunity to spread the message that the earthquake was a harbinger of worse things to come, and that a wayward population must follow God's laws, if they expected to ascend to heaven. Throughout history, following volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, tidal waves, and other calamities that periodically afflict mankind, religious leaders have used such occurrences to bring the people back to their faith. "Unless we return to Allah," said a priest, "we can expect more divine punishment." Since many Egyptians had expressed unhappiness about their government prior to the earthquake, there was a good chance for Muslim fundamentalists to seize the opportunity to win new converts, by showing that the answer to recovery was not through man's efforts but through God's.